Some startups can get a co-working space. They just need well, they don't even need a telephone line. They just need a desk and maybe a cool place to host clients. You need a little, we're looking at that video we just saw there. You mentioned some high-tech stuff. Do we have that? Do we have that space if someone wants to start their own startup and they have the greenhouse, they have access to the other technical stuff that it takes?
Yeah, there is a little bit of a challenge in the community right now, and that's a part of a good story. You know,
good problem to have.
Well, it's a problem to solve,
right.
but it's a good problem to have in that 15 years ago when we started this effort to build the innovation ecosystem, there was not space for startup companies. And a lot of that had been solved with a lot of interesting space that's available now. The Helix Center, which the St. Louis Partnership manages and invests in, which is in St. Louis County. We have our biogenerator labs in the Cortex District, which we now have 50 companies sharing that lab space. But we're virtually all full. The fact that we're full is a really good story because we have so many, we're teaming with really strong startups in St. Louis now, some of which aren't going to succeed, but some of which are going to be our next really big employers, which is a great story. But now we have to move to the next level and solve the new problem, is that we're full and we still see companies coming from overseas. If these Monsanto spins off individuals that start new companies, we need to make sure we have a place to put those. And we have some short-term challenges. I'm pleased to say that we've had conversations with the St. Louis Partnership, with our organization, the Biogenerator, about creating what I would call a Biogenerator West. We have the mostly drug discovery, medical device companies focused in the Cortex District near the medical schools. Mm-hmm. And we would do a similar kind of a model in Creve Coeur that's more focused on ag tech with shared equipment that we could provide for free to very early startups. And as they grow and develop the wherewithal to pay rent, they can move out into adjacent space and create kind of concentric circles of companies as they mature and really develop a very robust community of startups. We have that started in that district with the Helix Center. Bridge Park has more mature companies, but there's room for a lot more development in that area around the Monsanto World Headquarters and the Danforth Center.
And I think from a financial perspective, Jacob mentioned it earlier. You know, we've had a rise of Cultivation Capital, Prologue Ventures here in town, Lewis and Clark Ventures, Biogenerator hits the early scene.
The money,
yes, and the money is truly on a momentum trajectory.
Because we hear in a lot of startup talk outside of the ag stuff that when you get to a certain point, you got to go to the coast.
That's slowly changing.
It is. I mean, some of the Helix Center companies have had incredible raises in the last 12 months. I mean, $70 million raises, $35 million raises, big stuff.
To be fair, though, and this is not a bad thing, some of those companies are in our portfolio, and in the last several years, last 2 years at least, over 80% of the dollars coming into these companies are coming from outside St. Louis. And that is a good thing. As long as our companies can, I mean, this is money being imported into St. Louis that then is being devoted to payroll, buying goods and services in St. Louis. It's creating economic activity in St. Louis. The key is, can we keep attracting that outside money? And that comes down to great ideas and great people to manage those ideas.
Access, I think what BioSTL has been really good at doing, and we took a trade mission to Boston this past week with Accelerate St. Louis, is that we don't just say, hey, you should raise money. We actually take you to the funders. So we take our best startups to the places where there is money in the ag space. So I think that's important.
And you know, if you just look at St. Louis from a cost of living perspective, you know, your dollar goes 2 times, if not 3 times, as further here in St. Louis than it would on the coast. You might be able to raise more money, but if you look at a burn rate or a run rate, those dollars aren't going to last you as long as they would here in St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, part of the secret sauce for St. Louis in competing with other places is that we call it capital efficiency. Right? Your money goes a lot further. We don't like to say low cost, you know, but capital efficient. But also the access and attention that a company can get if they come to St. Louis that they could never get in a Boston or New York or San Francisco. St. Louis is a very networked, collaborative community. Maybe it's partly the Midwest sensibilities, but people are so willing to open up their I say Rolodex, but that's kind of antiquated. I still have a Rolodex, but
Really?
not really, no. But, my Outlook contact. But people are willing to open,
Their
make
contacts.
make
They're
introductions,
willing to do connect-
make
make
introductions, and connect people to resources. And so we have had companies come here from overseas who are blown away by the people that they can meet and the decision makers that they can meet in 48 hours in St. Louis. They could spend 6 months in Boston knocking on doors and never have that access. So that brings us back to the comment that Jake made about decision makers. When you think about Monsanto, will the decision makers still be in St. Louis? Because decision makers are who people want to meet with. And it's not just Monsanto, it's a whole array, but I do certainly hope that when all the dust settles, that key decision makers on the innovation side for Monsanto/Bayer will be here in St. Louis.